Ross Noble here, and I'm on this show right now.
Hi, it's Rochelle Q.
Hi, I'm Astro. And I'm Addict from UB40. I'm the Q and
Thursday breakfast on Source FM with Benjamin Makin. Woo! Well, good morning to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me today on your Thursday morning Source FM breakfast show. As always, of course, this show is brought to you by the University of Exeter. I hope you're well. Thank you very much again for joining me this morning. I'm really pleased that you could make it. Do join me every Thursday. You know, you're always very, very welcome. And I always play your requests. And I promise, it isn't always Rod Stewart like that, just first one we just heard there. But don't worry about it. Shall I tell you what's coming up today then? Bit of an exciting, jam-packed show, actually. So not only do we have singer superstar, dancer superstar as well, Alexandra Burke on the show today. Whoop! Yeah, pleased about that. She's actually speaking today alongside Dr. Peter Lovett. Dr. Lovett is actually a dance psychologist. They're both today actually spearheading Slim Dance, a new campaign aimed at helping you to lose weight through the medium of dance. Pretty cool stuff, actually. And I tell you what, I think they actually knew that I really needed this because I've just recently embarked on an attempt to lose a bit of weight. We'll see how it goes, shall we? We'll see how it goes. I do own up to, straight away with that one. We'll see how that one goes, shall we? Alexandra's got a new album out as well. Going to be playing some tracks off that. And she also dropped some exclusive inside news about that new album as well. I'll tell you a bit more about that later, perhaps. Yeah. We also have a botanist on the show for any gardeners out there. We've got the BBC's James Wong today talking a little bit about gardening. He's teamed up with Fiskars, the garden tool company. So we see how James can help us get back into the gardens now that the weather is, I'm saying it's hopefully improving. Of course, it is a bit of a rainy day today. It's been lovely recently, but hopefully as we head towards summer, that will change and it will get really nice for us. Yeah, fingers crossed anyway, right? We never really truly know that down here in Cornwall. We also have the very inspirational Max Stainton. Now, Max was actually recently the first person with cerebral palsy to trek to Mount Everest base camp on horseback. Now, that is a pretty amazingly... it's an incredible, absolutely incredible adventure for Max, actually. I mean, important to take into account, of course, that Max usually relies on an electric wheelchair, so that challenge was possibly even bigger than the mountain itself, right? But he made it anyway, so he's on the show today to talk a little bit about that. I think what an inspirational chap Max is. He's talking alongside Ed Breaker. Now, Ed... he's the chief exec of the Riding for the Disabled Association, so we'll hear from those two this morning. So, shall we get kicked off? Let's see how much of this stuff we can fit in for you today, okay? As always, of course, you can send in your request to me. Easiest way to do that, you can do it whilst I'm presenting. If you just give me a text, actually, on 07860 670 917, or you can use any of the contact details on the Thursday Breakfast Show page on the Source FM website. Right, first up anyway this morning, I would like to offer a very, very warm welcome indeed to the fantastic Max Stainton alongside Ed Breaker. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us. Thursday breakfast on Source FM with Benjamin Makin.
Hi guys, I'm Max. I've just ridden Everest base camp on a horse, and I've got cerebral palsy. I'm 27 years old. I live in London.
And I'm Ed Breaker. I'm the Chief Executive of Riding for the Disabled Association, and we're proud to have been associated with Max's trip.
Fantastic. Well, a very warm welcome to you both. Thanks very much for this, Max and Ed. Really appreciate this. And this, straight off sounds like an absolutely incredible adventure, Max.
Thanks. Yeah, no, it really was. It was a pretty hardcore adventure. I'm not going to lie, it was a lot harder than I was expecting, but no, it was absolutely amazing. I mean, getting there and actually achieving, what had been, 2 years in the making was
Yes.
Really fantastic feeling for everyone in the team. We had 14 people going out there with me, and that's not including all the Sherpas as well. So it was a total team effort, but yeah, no, it was just fantastic to achieve it, and just all the scenery was just phenomenal.
Gosh, I know. I bet it even exceeded your expectations, right? Once you got up there and saw those views. I mean, those views must be wow. They must just be incredible.
Oh yeah. I mean, so you can't see Everest itself from base camp, but at base camp you're just surrounded by all these humongous mountains. They're just just completely. It's the greatest amphitheater in the world, really. But yeah, as you say, the trek up there, the scenery, just time after time just gets better and better and better. It's absolutely phenomenal, breathtaking scenery.
Brilliant, and what an achievement to you know, tossed aside all those kind of expectations and things, and just gone ahead and done it, Max. I really think that's a massive congratulations in order to you, and of course as well to your team, but I think most importantly to you, Max. I think that's fantastic.
Thanks. No, yeah, it was. It's. I mean, yeah, as you say, like when people see someone in a wheelchair with a disability, they often put certain expectations on them. They often put them in a box, and yeah, a big part of riding Everest, apart from you know, raising the profile of RDA, an incredible charity that I've been riding with since I was 5 years old, was to, you know, change people's perceptions about disability and about how, you know, one can achieve stuff without, you know, just because you're not doing it in the same way as everyone else doesn't mean it's still an achievement, and that's exactly what we set out to do.
That's fantastic. I think it'll really serve really nicely to, you know, as just a positive, you know, role model, an example of what you can do for you know, other people out there. And perhaps if we do have anybody who listens to this and hears you speaking today, I just really hope that they're, you know, inspired by what you've done, really, because I mean,
that's exactly the hope. Yeah,
absolutely.
That's why I did it.
Fantastic. And Ed, I'll turn to you for a second, if that's okay. Thanks, Max. I think it's a fantastic work that you do over at the RDA. I mean, is this, you were saying that this particular trip was quite a long time in the making?
Yeah, well, Max has been planning for this for about 2 years, I think, and certainly being involved with our centre. I think Max used to ride with us in Warwickshire, now rides with our Hyde Park group in London, and yes, the kind of effort and commitment that's gone into it from Max is quite extraordinary. And as you were just saying, really, it demonstrates that you know, what we're able to do is give people the chance to prove that they can do things that people don't expect them to do at whatever level. So Max is perhaps a slightly extreme example of that, but very much what we try to achieve.
Fantastic, and I believe as well, which is really exciting. Actually, you're actually in the process of developing your first national training centre, aren't you?
Yeah, we are, and Max's trip was also partly about raising funds for that, and has raised an extraordinary amount. It's currently at about £60,000. I think. So we're massively grateful for that, and that'll go towards. Helping us create a national training centre in Warwickshire. We have about 500 centres around the country, and that'll help us support our volunteers in those centres to support even more people like Max to do incredible things.
Brilliant. And if there are people listening who perhaps, you know, might like to help out, is there a way that they can do this? You know, they can benefit you?
Absolutely, yeah. You can go to our website, which is rda.org.uk, and you can find your local RDA centre there. We're desperate for more support and more volunteers at every RDA centre. And if you want a bit more inspiration, you can read more about Max's adventure on that as well. And if you just want to support us financially, you can find your way to do that through Max's trip there as well. So have a look on our website, and you don't have to have any previous experience of horses to get involved. We need all sorts of different help.
That's fantastic, and well, thank you very much to both of you again for coming on the show. Now, Max, I was thinking about this actually. I'm trying to imagine a like a kind of epic theme tune for the trip to play on the show. Okay, do you have any ideas?
Yeah, what were we talking about? We were talking about like Slice the Valkyries or something.
Oh, yes.
So we actually helicoptered off the mountain. So those are the kind of theme tunes that we were thinking about when we were flying out of there.
Oh, brilliant!
Something Apocalypse Now-esque.
No, that's an absolutely perfect choice. I think we might just have to play that now. Excellent. Well, thanks so much to you both of you. I really appreciate your time today. Is there anything at all that you'd like to, you know, any messages to get out there that you know, we think I might have missed or anything like that at all? Then please do. Just feel free to fire away, basically.
I think it's support RDA. If you want to find out more about the trek, you know, check out Riding Everest. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can donate to Riding Everest, which all goes to RDA. Just Google Riding Everest donate, and you'll find our donation page. RDA.org.uk.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Max, and thank you, Ed, as well. And just a big congratulations to you in particular, Max, for achieving that. Fantastic. And thanks for the song choice too. Perfect.
Thanks, Liz. See ya.
Bye then.
Well, a big thank you to Max and Ed for coming on the show just now. And again, what an inspirational achievement that is. Thank you very much indeed, Max. And you know what? You are well deserving of that epic soundtrack, chosen, of course, by Max himself. I think that was great. Right, okay, coming up next then to the show, we have the fantastic Alexandra Burke alongside Dr. Peter Lovett. So, enjoy this, guys. I am delighted to welcome these both to the show.
Hi, both. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, darling, how are you?
Oh, I'm very well, thanks. Well, thanks so much for chatting to me today, both of you. I think this is actually, fantastic on multiple levels. Actually, not only for the health benefits, of course, and weight loss and things like this is absolutely fantastic, but also from your side of things, Peter, as well. The kind of science behind it all. I think this is really fascinating. But I guess I'm getting ahead of us just to start with. Let's start off talking about this new campaign and Slim Dance, which, of course, you're spearheading today, aren't you, Alexandra?
Yes, I am, yes. And basically, Slim Dance is all about encouraging people to reach their weight loss goals, but doing it through dance.
Fantastic.
And I can only talk from a personal experience that I've reached, I've been doing Slim Fast for 3 years now, but I've also reached my weight loss goals by doing various different things, but the most effective one was dancing. So I want to encourage people to be able to stay motivated, to stay active, doing it through dance.
Fantastic. And you know what? I'm going to have to tell you, actually, I've just started attempting to lose weight. I'm afraid I'm going to have to own up. I've got a bit of a cheeky beer belly going on. I'm trying to get rid of it.
Oh, bless you. It's all right. It happened.
I know. It definitely did happen, yeah. So I've got my brother staying with me this weekend, so the beers probably won't help. But yeah, we'll see. I'm going to try and stay motivated.
But you know what I always say is everything in moderation.
Exactly.
And that's what's important.
Exactly. And you know what? I haven't tried turning to dance yet, though, for the weight loss. I think I'm going to give it a shot.
So you need to.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yes.
Well, you got to see how it makes you feel.
Exactly.
Because I promise you, it will make you feel amazing.
Well, I mean, as you know, on top of all of this, there's actually lots of research out there. I'll turn to you for a second, if that's okay, Peter, because there's actually a lot of research out there, isn't there, on the benefits of dance, actually, in particular, your area as actually a psychologist, entirely interested in the area of dance.
Yeah, the amazing thing about the psychology of dance is that dance is something we do very innately. So we are born to dance, but then we have this societal attitude about dancing that we think dancing somehow isn't for us. It would be like suddenly declaring that breathing isn't for us or walking isn't for us.
Yes.
They're just so innate that we should all do them, or we do all do them.
Yes.
Now, the scientific research is interesting because we know that when people engage in dance, it leads to tangible health benefits. So even from people with Parkinson's disease, a neurodegenerative disorder, when people with Parkinson's dance, it leads to an improvement, a significant improvement in some of their symptoms, which is extraordinary. And as a scientist, what I want to know is, why is it the case that when we move to a funky, groovy rhythm, why does that lead to an improvement in a neurodegenerative disorder? And so therefore, for the rest of us who don't have that, it also leads to amazing benefits. Even work down in Cornwall area, looking at dad dancing and looking at the impact of dad dancing on health and well-being. So, it's a serious thing.
That's absolutely fantastic. I think it's fascinating. I mean, as you say, I think it's probably part of what's going on really for a lot of people out there is they won't really think anything much about dance. Of course, they'll think more of it as this obviously a fantastic form of entertainment and things. But actually, when you're thinking about all of these benefits, which you're saying, and there's lots of research, and I'm particularly fascinated actually by your Parkinson's research. I think that's absolutely mind blowing. And I guess as well, I was actually really interested. I was just doing a quick bit of reading, and actually it looks like we've actually had a really long evolutionary history with things like music and dance. In fact, I think I'm correct in saying, and obviously I'm no expert at all, but actually we might have even sang before we spoke in our evolutionary history, which I think is remarkable.
It's certainly the case that we communicated through our bodies before we had verbal language.
Yes.
So that whole thing of using dance and movement and body movement as a form of communication, and why that's interesting is it shows that our brains have adapted to process moving-based information from the human body. So when we move in front of one another, something is happening in the brain of the person watching and the brain of the person dancing. It's not a passive activity. Now, it's no surprise that we use dance, as Alexandra has shown so brilliantly on Strictly Come Dancing. We use it as a performative thing, but actually it's a much more primal activity than that. And if we can get into that primal activity and just dance, then it leads to improvements in our social bonding, so people feel fabulous together. It actually leads to one brilliant study looking at the young children, that when children move together in rhythm, then they become more pro-social.
So it actually bonds people together, and it brings societies together when they dance and move together. And that might have been one of the original functions of dance from before we had spoken language, that societal bonding. And we can tap into that now. We were talking earlier on about all sorts of crime in major cities, and we've forgotten to dance. We need to dance more in cities and in towns and in the countryside because that brings people together.
That's a really fantastic point, actually. I think it's, probably one of the kind of, things that we can take away from this for listeners tuning in is that really, we can, not only is dance fantastic for entertainment, value and things, as you say, Alexandra is an excellent example of that. But we can also just utilise dance, can't we? As a tool to our benefit. For things like weight loss and for all the numerous other benefits which you're talking about. And I think it's great. Alexandra, I'll turn back to you just for a second, if that's okay. Because, of course, with the new slim dance that you are spearheading, I believe I'm correct in thinking that you've actually come up with a new dance alongside choreographer Neil Jones, haven't you? And actually, I think I've found this. You can check it out online as well, can't you?
Yes, you can. Yeah, and the reason for bringing Neil into it, I'm not a choreographer, so I wouldn't stand a chance in teaching someone how to do a new routine, let alone myself. But I do pick up steps quite quickly, and I enjoy dancing. But Neil's got such an infectious personality. He's so positive, loves to make people want to join in anything that he does. So bringing him on board was such a privilege to have him be a part of this, actually. Fantastic. And the day that we filmed that choreography and the routine, I learned it at the same time with all the other guys that had been doing the Slim Fast plan, yes, and then coming in out of their comfort zone, going into a dance studio, and just picking up the courage and going, actually, I'm going to give it all I've got and give it everything and go for it. And they certainly did. They worked up a little bit of a sweat, as did I, and we loved it. Everyone had a great time, and it's just about, having fun whilst working out and not actually realising that you are doing an effective workout that's keeping you healthy and keeping you active.
That's fantastic. I think it's a great thing to get involved with, and I think that it sounds to me like the whole dance was kind of designed around those positive feelings and things, and I think I've got it here. These life victories and those fist pump moments that we all enjoy in life, and kind of capturing that in the form of this dance. Fantastic.
Yeah, and I just think it's really important as well, because I didn't actually consciously walk into strictly going, I want to lose weight or have certain goals that I wanted to achieve. It naturally just happened. So for people that are afraid to take the plunge and just go for it and go, actually, I'm going to step out of my comfort zone and dance, I encourage them to do it, because you won't even realise what you're doing to yourself and how you're keeping yourself fit. Yeah,
that's amazing. That's a really good point, actually, because you can almost just think, I'm going to almost not even think about losing weight. Let's just think about dance. Let's enjoy doing dance. Let's learn some routines. Let's enjoy that. And then, as you're saying, by doing that, you will lose weight as well.
That's it. Exactly that.
That's fantastic. And I've got the perfect music for people to get to start dancing to, actually, Alexandra, because the new album is sounding wicked. Shadow is my favourite. Absolutely great track.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's a great...
I actually am about to announce a new single that's going to radio pretty soon, but I can't say what it is yet. Oh. But I am going on tour in September, so I'm looking forward to going across the country and hopefully just entertaining people and having a good old time.
Oh, fantastic! Well, people can listen out for the announcement of the new single. Then, I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Thank you.
And I really wanted to ask you both a very, very important question, and that would be, I would just really like to get a song request, actually, from both of you. If you have any favourite songs that I can play, Alexandra, I'm also going to have to play the new album, obviously. But have you got any favourite songs that?
Can I say, from a scientific perspective, there was a study came out a few years ago to look at the grooviest tune in the world to make people move. They give you that urge to move.
Oh, yes.
And the grooviest tune in the world is Superstition by Stevie Wonder.
Oh,
wow,
yes.
I love that. That's one of my favourite songs as well, to be fair. I think what I would play, it's got to get people moving though. We've got to pick up tempo. So I'm going to pick Shaka Khan, Ain't Nobody.
Oh, nice, yeah. We're going to get people seriously booging, aren't we?
They're going to get a sweat on now.
Well, thanks so much to both of you. I'd just really like to ask, actually, if people are interested in getting involved, which I really think it sounds like it's worthwhile doing that, where would you advise is the best place to go to do that? You've got it all online and things, so people can just check it out, can't they?
Yes, so you can actually go on the Slim Fast website, or you can go to my website as well, alexandraburkeofficial.com.
Fantastic. Well, thanks to both of you. Going to get those songs on. We're going to be dancing the grooviest song in the world alongside your choice as well. Fantastic. Thanks, both.
Brilliant, thank you.
Right, okay, well that's not all, because we've got some more absolutely cracking requests coming through. Of course, I am going to have to play a little bit from Alexandra's new album as well. The truth is, it's out now, actually, and this particular track, I think it is an absolute banger, called Shadow, okay? And don't forget as well, Alexandra just let us know there that there is a new single on the way as well, which she's announcing very soon, so listen out for that. And she's on tour in September, so things really couldn't be better. Right, okay, and also straight after this song, I'm going to drop this one for you. And I've actually got a couple of fantastic requests just come through from two very, very good friends of mine. I'm going to get those on straight after this as well. But for now, let's have a little bit of Alexandra Burke on the show, shall we? Oh, yeah. It is time to actually mention two very handsome men, actually. Why? Why, you ask, Ben? Why? Well, aren't you one of those handsome men? Well, thank you. But actually, that's not who I was talking about. Up next is the fantastic botanist, James Wong, botanist and gardener. You might have seen him on BBC. He appears very regularly on TV as well as on radio. So I'm delighted to have James on the show. Now, he's going to be helping gardeners actually get back into the garden as it's hopefully going to start getting nice again, the weather that is. Perfect for kind of total amateurs like myself. It's a good job he couldn't see my garden, actually. I mean... Well, let's just say Steph, my partner, wasn't totally happy with my gardening attempt the other day. I mean, I just left a bunch of... Yeah, tell you what, though. Actually, James has my back here because, one of the points that he makes in a second is about weeds. Okay, I'll find out a bit in a second. End of the story, right, is that I left a bunch of weeds in our garden because I thought they looked cool, right? And Steph was a bit angry about it. She said, Ben, I thought you said you were going to do the gardening. I cut the grass as well, so come on, give me some credit. And then I had a barbecue in it and ruined it with a layer of ash. But it doesn't matter, does it? Right, I tell you what. That's enough talking from me. But, there was one thing that you're asking, though. But, Ben, you said two handsome men. Well, James Wong is one of those handsome men. Other handsome man is Flo Bayer from the lab, because he's actually just sent me in a cracking song request. That's coming up straight after we've heard from James. So, for now, James, welcome to the show. Thursday Breakfast on Source FM.
Thanks very much indeed for coming on the show today. Really appreciate this.
No, it's a pleasure. Where were you in the southwest, Ben? Just out of interest.
We're in Falmouth, in Cornwall.
Aha, lovely, beautiful part of the world.
Oh, it really is. It really is. Sport for choice, really, about beaches and even, I'm going to admit this, pubs as well. It's got some great pubs.
Oh, I'm jealous.
Well, James, welcome to the show. Thank you for this. I mean, this is fantastic. We've got you at this time as well, isn't it? Because this, of course, is just starting to become the season where people are going to be getting back out into the gardens and actually starting to do some gardening.
It's been a long enough winter, hasn't it? Like, I've been chomping at the bit right since, normally the time when the weather starts to turn is the Easter bank holiday.
Yes.
And I've been waiting, and finally it's time. But, I guess for you guys down in Cornwall, it's different. I've seen some amazing pictures of the weather down in Cornwall, even when it's not been great for me in London.
That's it. I mean, it's been very weird for us recently. Of course, we got our first, the first that I can remember in a good few years, bit of snow in Cornwall, which was really weird, seeing snow on beaches. But recently, you're right. We've had some cracking days. It's great. So maybe people are already starting to get out in the garden. I don't know.
See, those are really fascinating things. As this weather starts to turn, I was looking at the research that Fiscar's found, and what they found is that 85% of people, Brits, really want to get out and commune with their outdoor space.
Sure.
The thing that I found really strange about it, though, I always like digging through the stats in a study. Okay, 12 hours a week is the average amount of time that Brits spend outdoors.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my job, and I probably barely spend that amount. It's enormous, this kind of collective national passion we have for gardening.
Yes.
But then, if you look at the flip side of the other stats that are in that, they contradict it. What it shows is that people are really keen on gardening, and they love doing it, but they're also, very paradoxically, filled with fear about it. So we're looking at 30% of people are worried about overwatering their plants, which, it's essentially impossible to do outdoors in the UK.
Yes.
A quarter of people are terrified about ripping up flowers that they thought were weeds, for example. All of these things, I would say, even as a horticulturist, are not things you would necessarily need to worry about. So it shows that despite the desire to garden, people have
much greater fears than they need to have, which is a shame considering how much we want to get out into our outdoor spaces.
Yeah, as you were saying, I mean, that is a remarkable amount of time to be spending outdoors each week, and I guess as well, it must really feed into that total British love of things like barbecues and kind of garden parties and things like that. I bet.
Well, this really, really great bodies of research suggests that being outdoors in spaces, in green spaces, in communing with them through gardening, through horticultural therapy, can have a dramatic impact on not only mental health but also physical health in a very measurable way. And I think that's what people are seeing.
Yes.
But I do think there is a bit of a culture in horticulture of, experts know everything and they are real gardeners. And because of that, timid first-timers or people who may actually garden quite a lot, I've certainly had people saying, who've told me, I'm not a real gardener, I just kind of dabble. And then they'll show you a picture of the most beautiful garden you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think, it's time to democratize gardens and really get out there and enjoy it. I certainly have friends who'll say stuff like, I don't know how to get green fingers, or they might even say, I'd love to garden more, but I wasn't born with green fingers because something died. No one's born with green fingers. There's, the secret, if there is anything to the secret of having green fingers or a green thumb, it's persistence. So if a plant dies on you, who cares? Just pick yourself up and carry on. You learn through experience.
Exactly.
Some of my mates are like the top genius-type horticulturists, much smarter than me at places like Kew Gardens. And most of their conversation when it comes to plants is what they killed and how they learned from it.
Yes.
So as long as you pick yourself up and also have great gardening tools, because no matter how much you know, unless you have the right tools for the job, you're onto a non-starter.
Of course.
That's all you need to have.
That's great. I mean, and for anyone, James, thinking about what you were saying earlier there, about these worries that people might have about their gardens. Have you got any advice for people kind of straight off the bat? There are things like, for example, I can see here that, people tell the difference between weeds and flowers, and you were mentioning that a second ago about people getting worried about this, and you were saying actually there's not really any particular need to worry. I mean, are there other things like that which you can kind of immediately put to rest?
Well, I'll give you an example with the weed versus flower debate. People often ask me what the difference is. And the difference is, well, there isn't really a difference. It's a cultural construction. So I'll give you the example of, let's say dandelions.
Yes.
If dandelions were difficult to grow, everyone would want to grow them because they're a beautiful native wildflower that comes out really early in the season before anything's around with naturally double sulfur-colored flowers that are great for pollinators, which are having a difficult time at the moment.
Yes.
Their leaves are edible and packed with phytonutrients, much higher than things like lettuce, for example. And I was at a fancy central London's farmers market recently, and they had these leaves that were called wild Italian tarassaco leaves. And tarassaco is just the Italian word for dandelion.
Okay. Wow.
And you see them on fancy menus. So if you have dandelions in a border and you like their pretty flowers and you don't worry about them, that's great. Don't worry about them.
Yes.
If they're in a lawn and that's posing a problem for you, get a Fiskars weed puller, which you simply snip into the ground, and it has 3 prongs, which instantly pop it out with a quick action of the wrist. And then you can use those in salads or in pasta or in any other kind of fancy dish you can create, and you can serve them in a dinner party as wild tarassaco greens.
There we go. That's an awesome idea, especially if garden party season is starting. So what about that? And that'll kick it off brilliantly, I think. Maybe serve it with a cocktail. Brilliant.
Yeah, well, there's lots of cocktail ingredients you can also grow in gardens. So there's things like borage flowers. Borage flowers are you could either call them native or you could call them introduced, because they have been in the UK for a very long period of time and they've become naturalized.
Yes.
So they're, again, great for bees. You could argue that they're a weed in some circumstances. If you've ever sown borage in your garden, it takes over. If it's where you don't want it to be, you call it a weed. If it looks nice, it's definitely a Chelsea Flower Show every year, borage. It's used by some of the top designers. It's not something you need to worry about. If gardening is subjective, and if it works for you, that's great. I think the most important things are to be a little bit more chilled out about it.
Yes.
And also, if you have, the simple things are a bit harder. So let's say you are using your granddad's gardening tools, and I have tools from my granddad, and I love them. I have a lot of nostalgia associated with them, but they're extremely heavy, wooden, chipped tools that, cut you if you use them wrong. If you're trying to dig up a border, if you compare that with fiber comp, which is this patented super lightweight stuff, just a physical amount of effort you're using in each dig, every time you put the spade in the soil, you're using less effort, so it becomes easier. This stuff is, you can run a tank over it in the last 25 years.
Yes.
So simple stuff like tools, I think, are a good thing to invest in. After that, just let things roll.
Yeah, awesome. So, I mean, in terms of giving a hand to any gardeners out there, I mean, this sounds like a perfectly good point to start at. Just tools is essential, of course. What about anything else at all, James, to get across to anyone wanting to get back into their gardens? Now that the weather is hopefully changing. You've mentioned the tools and things. Is there anything else at all that you would suggest that they look at?
I think another simple one would be, for example, right plant, right place.
Yes.
It's a cliche, but it's a very true cliche. So in nature, there aren't loads and loads of gardeners out creating different plants for you, okay? Plants have to survive in their natural environment due to adaptations. So if you have a hot, sunny spot, plant plants from hot, sunny locations. If you have a shady spot, plant plants from shady spots. They'll take care of themselves.
Fantastic. Well, thanks very much indeed, James. And just a final question for you before I do let you go. I'm conscious of your time, of course. I would just like to ask you, actually, if there's any way we can send listeners to for a bit more information, or perhaps more ways to think about this and some of those ideas that you're putting across for us today.
Absolutely. I'm uploading everything to fiskars.co.uk.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, James. I'll let you go. Have a cracking rest of the day, and thanks for chatting to me.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure.
Okay, I'm going to have to put aside the silliness just for a little bit now and delve into something a bit more serious. I know, you're thinking, really? Ben, you and a serious piece of radio. Yes, I'm going to attempt some serious radio now. Now, I was actually really delighted to have this fantastic chap on the show, Roland Chester. Now, Roland actually went through an extremely, extremely tough time when he received an HIV and AIDS diagnosis. And he was basically told that he had 2 weeks to live when he received this diagnosis. He's going to run into this a little bit more and tell us a little bit about this. Of course, he came through this. So he's around, and he decided to publish this book about his experience and also about how he felt it affected others around him. So this is going to be a bit of a heavy section, but I really think this is something worth airing today for you. So this is Roland Chester. He's written this book. I'm going to let him explain it all now. But don't worry, I mean, if you're starting to feel a bit, oh gosh, that was heavy, he's chosen an absolutely fantastic song for us as well. So don't you worry, okay? So Roland, thank you very much indeed for joining us today on Source FM. I mean, this is I think it's really, really brave of Roland as well to come forward and talk about this, so openly in the form of this book as well, and of course in the form of this interview. So a warm welcome to Roland.
My name's Roland Chester. I am a gay man living with HIV, and I was diagnosed with HIV and AIDS back in 2006. And I have just written a book called Ripples from the Edge of Life that gives my story of my diagnosis from my point of view, from the point of view of the people around me at the time, family, friends, my partner, colleagues, employers, medical staff. And the last part of the book, I've reached out and I've included 13 other narratives from other people who've been diagnosed with HIV and in some cases AIDS, dating from 1982, the year of diagnosis, up until 2015.
Back in 2006, I believe, when you were actually diagnosed, you were actually told, I believe I'm correct in saying, that you only had 2 weeks to live. And yet,
right.
You smashed those odds and you've come through that. Did you kind of know back then that you would end up wanting to document this? I mean, of course, at the time, I'm sure that you thought, oh gosh, that my life's over, but here you are.
I only started thinking about this very recently. The book has taken 18 months to put together. I could have had 2 babies in that. Well, not me personally, but 2 babies could have been created. But this is my baby.
Yes.
And I get goosebumps every time I look at the book and touch it. But at the time of my diagnosis, as you say, I was only given 2 weeks to live. And the way that I was given my diagnosis is perhaps unique and different to the norm, and that it broke all medical protocols. For a period of 2 years before my diagnosis, I had been feeling increasingly unwell. I was losing the use of my arms and my legs. I was losing the ability to speak. I was losing lots of memory, getting very exhausted, falling asleep at my desk, which employers tend to not like.
Yes.
my regular commute home from Westminster to where I live in Surrey, I would end up getting on the wrong train for whatever reason. I'd call my partner and say, I don't know where I am.
Gosh,
And he'd say,
yes,
look at what
yeah.
it says on the platform, and I'll come and pick you up. I saw lots and lots of different specialists, had lots of different tests, and nobody could tell me what the problem was. My partner decided perhaps a weekend in Paris would help, so off we went. Unfortunately, I collapsed in the underground, and he had to carry me home. And I don't remember it, but he does.
Gosh.
And so he started coming with me to see these various medical specialists, and I was seeing a chest specialist because they thought they'd found something on my lungs, which turned out to be scars from chicken pox I had many years ago. But this specialist, recognizing that we were a same-sex couple, asked if I'd had a HIV test. And I hadn't.
Yes.
Because at that point, I'd been 10 years in a monogamous relationship, only one previous partner to that. I'd never engaged in any kind of risky sexual behavior. But I said, test me, because I think I'm going mad. I need to know what's happening.
Yes.
So I had the HIV test done on a Thursday. We were due to go off on holiday on the Saturday, so for 2 weeks. So I told the specialist that I would pick up the results on my return. On the Friday, I staggered into work to put on my out of office. My partner, Richard, was at home, supposedly packing. When I got home that evening, no suitcases packed. And I said to Richard, why? What's happening? And he took me in his arms and he started to cry. And he's a big chap, emotionally and physically, and doesn't cry. So I kind of guessed something was wrong.
Gosh, yes.
He told me that the consultant had phoned home to try and get my office number to tell me that if I went away for 2 weeks, I would come back in a cardboard box.
Gosh.
And Richard
gosh.
had said to him, no, I'm not going to let you do that. I will tell him when he comes home.
Yes.
And out of all of this, my biggest regret is that it is the man that I love who was put in a position where he had to tell me that I would die in 2 weeks.
Gosh, I mean, I think it must have just been incredibly difficult. And as you say, you know, not only because you yourself have clearly had to go through that incredibly difficult time, but, you know, not only that, but also the impact on others around you. And I don't know, because I can't imagine it myself, of course, but, you know, I can imagine it just being almost even harder to see the ones that the ones you love around you, and the impacts it has on them, you know, this illness.
Well, that's why the book is called Ripples, because with any kind of life-changing diagnosis, it's not only the person that receives the diagnosis that is affected, but it is the people around them as well. And sometimes you can't stop how far the ripples spread.
Yes.
One of the first things that I was told when I was diagnosed is, be careful who you tell about your diagnosis.
Yes.
Because although you may tell someone in confidence, people are human, they like to share, and once that ripple starts, you can't stop it. The situation has changed enormously since the early 80s.
Yes.
In terms of medical care and treatment and life expectancy and so on. But the biggest killer, the killer that still exists, is that stigma.
Yes. And do you think the stigma itself has improved somewhat since,
No.
In the time that you've,
No,
been living with
I
HIV?
don't think it has. I do lots of voluntary work in the HIV and AIDS sector now. One of the things that I do is run courses for newly diagnosed gay men. And quite often, they are very young, the people that come on the course.
Yes.
Too young to have known about the icebergs and the tombstones adverts that we saw in the mid-1980s. But
Yes.
they come to that course full of fear, full of anxiety, full of guilt, full of anger.
Yes.
And they don't really know why.
I just think it's fantastic that people like yourself are actually out there, with welcoming arms, looking after people like this. I can imagine if you were in the situation where you receive an HIV diagnosis, you're probably going to feel quite alone, aren't you? So I think it's fantastic
Absolutely.
that people are actually saying, no, you don't need to be alone, and you don't need to feel this guilt and all of these negative emotions. I mean, as you said, treatment is constantly improving, right, as well. So I mean, life expectancies and things with the condition, and indeed,
the things that you can expect because, medically because of the condition, these all seem like things which are improving anyway.
That is indeed the case, and because people living with HIV are regularly monitored for their health, we are probably healthier in some respects than people who don't go and see a GP or attend a hospital appointment for years on end. But the issue is that we are now at a stage where people have been taking the medication for a considerable number of years, and the longer-term impact of that taking that medication is not known. Yeah. We're also an aging population. More than 50% of people living with HIV in the UK these days are aged over 50.
Yes.
And the long-term future of those people is unknown. There's big debates about when people living with HIV eventually need to go into potentially care homes. What kind of treatment will they receive? Will they be discriminated against? Will they be stigmatized? Or will they be accepted and understood and treated fairly?
Yes. I mean, these are all very, very important questions to ask. And I think, in terms of, you were already saying about, even though, of course, that it looks like there is indeed encouragement in the kind of medical area, right? Encouraging progress there, but you're saying actually you're not so sure actually that the stigma associated with the condition has changed. Looking to the future, Roland, do you think that can you foresee it getting any better anytime soon, or is this something which really needs attention?
Undoubtedly, it really needs attention. I was at a public lecture only last week given by one of the senior doctors at one of the central London clinics where she proposed that, as I said, the biggest factor in the well-being of people living with HIV and or AIDS is that stigma, self-stigma, that stigma that other people express towards people living with HIV. It has a huge impact on mental health. The suicide rate amongst people living with HIV is 1/3 higher than that amongst people who are not HIV positive.
Yes, gosh. I think it's it's dreadful figures, really. And I think it is great that people like yourself are actually helping people become aware of this, and not only of course for those living with the condition, but also just helping to change that stigma by making everybody aware, the general public aware, whether they're living with HIV or not, making them aware of the issue that's the stigma in itself, isn't it? I think it's really important that for example, your book is going to help people to do that, to come to actually learn a bit more and hopefully understand a bit more.
I hope so. That is the aim of the book, to try and break through that level of stigma. And I have myself been on the receiving end of that kind of discrimination or negative behaviour when people learn about my diagnosis.
Yes. Well, Roland, I really do appreciate you coming on the show today. Thanks very much. I'm conscious of time, so I won't keep you for much longer at all. I would just like to ask you, if that's okay with you, where can listeners head to check out your book? Do you recommend any particular retailers to pick it up at?
Well, you can order a hard copy of the book from my own website, which is luminate.uk.com, and Luminate is Luminate.
Fantastic.
Or you can download the ebook version of it from Amazon. I'm really excited to say that over the past week I was number 7 in the top hot new sellers on Amazon. I was just above Rock Hudson, which is something I never thought I'd say.
Well, congratulations. That's fantastic as well. I do hope the trend continues, and I hope everybody hears about this. So thanks very much, Roland. One very, very last, very quick thing for you. And I would just love to give you a song request, actually. If you have any favourite songs, I'd love to play one for you.
This is going to sound really corny and really camp.
No.
Do you have I Am What I Am from Casual Soul?
I shall certainly find that for you and put it straight on. Thank you very much, Roland. Have a great day. And thanks for chatting to me.
And that has come to the end of the show this week, so thank you very much again for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope as well that it inspired you to send in some requests next week. Didn't get all my requests on there this week, so next week's going to kick off with a bit of a request special, perhaps. What do you think? And thank you as well to all of our very special guests today. A big thanks to Max Stainton, the inspirational man with cerebral palsy, actually, who trekked to Everest on horseback. Pretty impressive. Alongside Ed Breaker, of course, of the RDA. And thank you to Alexandra Burke. Absolutely fantastic to have a pop superstar on the show with us today. And thank you to dance psychologist Dr. Peter Lovett. Thank you to BBC gardener and botanist James Wong. And thank you to author Roland Chester as well for coming on the show. And the biggest thank you of them all, as always, is reserved for you. Yes, you. Thank you for tuning in. Do catch me again next Thursday. But for now, I'm going to leave you with a couple of tunes just to ease you into your morning. What do you think about that then? Yeah, got to be done, hasn't it, really? All right, that's me out. Thanks for having me.
Thursday Breakfast on Source FM.